Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Dominic, and today I'm going to kind of show you how to set up an environment. I'm going for the stylized claymation kind of environment that we're going to be making all digitally. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to show you guys some helpful tools and tips and tricks of going through this process or going through this particular project from start to finish. So with all that said and done, let's go ahead and begin. I've got these models of trees that I have made. They're very, very simple, and I can kind of just place these into the ground as I please, right? And I can kind of rotate them the way that I need to. But I'm just going to kind of space these guys around to where they just kind of fill it up like so. And I've taken a plane, a very flat plane, and I've just kind of scooted them up and down to create this kind of rolling hill look to it. So with all that said, I do want to make some boulders and some little shrubs and things like that that I do want to space around. So let's go ahead and add just a cube right there in the very middle. I'm going to hide everything just that way I don't have to see all of these other pieces over here. And with that done, I can go ahead and smooth this guy out. I can make this a little bit more flat and just start to grab some random faces and just kind of bring them up, maybe make them a little bit bigger. Kind of bend them down, angle them if I want to, right? We're just going to keep this super, super random as we're working. And we're just going to get like kind of an organic ball like this. Very low poly, very, stress-free. It doesn't quite matter of what we're going for, but just something like this, right? I'm going to duplicate and hide, so that way I have a second clone. And I'm just going to kind of rinse and repeat this process. So maybe I'll grab a couple of these and like pull them around, make this one a little bit, I don't know, kind of shape the opposite way, right? Maybe rotate it like that, right? So I'm going to do this a couple of times. So now this is what, 3 over here. Let's rotate this guy around. Let's grab a couple of these faces, make them bigger, because why not, right? And I'm just going to go for a little bit of variety with my kind of rocks and pebbles and things like that, right? I don't want each of them looking too similar from each other. So I'm just going to go through and kind of very randomly and, without too much care, just go through and kind of customize each of these guys, right? So there we go. But something very important, I'm hiding the ones that I've already worked on, and I'm keeping everything in the center. So I haven't moved their origin point at all. They're all still pretty much right on top of each other, right? Maybe I'll make this guy just a tad bit bigger. So with all that said and done, delete history, freeze transformations. Notice how they're all still in the center of my document based on this grid. That's exactly how I want them for what I'm going to do. So I'm going to group all of these and I'm going to call these just blobs. And I'm going to UV unwrap them ahead of time. This is something important for if I'm going to make a whole bunch of these guys, but I'm just going to select these and hit Control U. And since I started as a cube and since they haven't changed too much as a cube, they're fairly easy to UV unwrap. So I'm just going to do all of that and we'll be good to go. Take these guys, modify, layout, all done. Now they're all just kind of all on one piece, right? So delete history, freeze transformations. Let's go ahead and unhide our ground plane over here. Now with these 4 cubes selected, we're going to try something over here. First things first, I'm going to save this as my Claymation demo. And we're going to try to use procedural modeling through Maya's MASH node network system to space these guys out in a bunch of different ways. So I'm going to come up to my MASH shelf and click on this, which creates a MASH network. And it gives me this new attribute, which I can go to distribute and change our distribution type to paint effects. And with that, I can add a placer node, which is right here. And this is going to let me basically brush or paint on where I want these objects to be. It gives me a bunch of attributes that I get to play around with, including this guy down here in ID mode, which I can change from 0 to 4. And what that's going to say is it's going to identify these 4 objects that I had selected from earlier and randomly place them wherever I paint my brush. So I do want that. I also want to turn on scattering, and I also want to play around with these different random kind of scalars and sliders. So random scale, I'm going to set this between, we're going to do 3 and 0.5. So I'm going to get some smaller versions and some larger versions that are randomly going to be placed. I'm also going to rotate these guys 180 degrees on the y-axis, and that's just going to help kind of add some more variety and some randomness to whatever we decide to paint. So with that, we can scroll up to this add icon up here, and this is going to let me paint on onto my surface, right, all of these different objects. And you can see they're very close together, so what I want to do is I want to kind of go back to my brush spacing and maybe space these guys out, maybe make my brush bigger, right? And this is just going to kind of help give me some big objects like this, and then I can also kind of come back here to our random scale and maybe set this to like 0.1 to 0.4. We're going to try that. And now I've got some nice and small kind of components right there, right? So this is just going to help me add some size variety into here, right? So now I've got some of these boulders and shrubs that are looking pretty cool. And we're just going to paint all of these on here and just kind of fill up some of these spots, right? And so it's all going to be on the ground plane. Now, they know which mesh to stick onto because I had kept them all in the center origin point. So that's a very important part that we can't forget. But that's feeling pretty good. Let's kind of go back here and add some more of these kind of boulders in here. So I do want some larger pieces just to kind of break it up. And now we should be good to go. One final node that I'm going to add in here is called an ID node. So if I go back to my MASH library up here, there's an ID node that I can click on, and this allows me to also further randomize the objects that I have on here. So the ID count is still 4, but I can, turn that down or up depending on which objects that I want to be randomized. But I'm going to leave that alone, and this will just kind of, as you see, rotate or continue to further randomize which objects that I have where, which is pretty nice. So with all that being said, I think we're best to leave that alone for now. And we've got a bunch of these boulders and rocks that it didn't take us, too much time to just kind of move around and place everywhere. I can delete history, freeze transformations. I can kind of go back and, select some of these objects like these guys right here. For some reason, they're clumping together. But, I can go through and just very quickly kind of delete those guys. So let's do that. Let's deselect everything else. And we'll just delete this group right here because we don't need it anymore. I'm also going to come back here to our UV editor, and I'm going to hit Control U, and that's going to give me a whole bunch of them. And we're going to go to layout, and so now I've got a bunch of big and small pieces, and they're all pretty much good to go right there. Nice. It's looking great. Okay, so that's a nice, easy way on how we can set dress and add a whole bunch of kind of random objects into our scene, especially if we just start with our, opening library of a bunch of, or of just a handful of different assets that we're going to just kind of sneeze onto everything else. So anyways, that's concluding this particular video. I'm going to have another video talking about exporting this to Substance Painter, so stay tuned for that. And of course, generating our claymation or our molded clay style textures. So that's coming up very soon. If you have any questions, let me know. If you, hopefully this is a good or useful way that you can implement some set dressing tools into your Maya scene. But of course, keep me posted on your progress. Have a good one. Bye-bye.